Why don't you have a cognitive test just to rule out that there are any issues?
The neurologists have said it is not warranted. The president himself, he said it today. He said it multiple times.
Neurologist? What neurologist? Oh, you mean Dr. Kennard. His name is Dr. Kennard. In Merriam-Webster, a Kennard is a false or unfounded report or story. It's a fabricated report. And they brought out Dr. Kennard to solve the problem. The Democrats are meeting on Capitol Hill in a secret meeting. I think the meeting's breaking up, right? And there were 3 protesters outside, Republican protesters. They looked like the Men in Black. You could tell they were Republican protesters because they didn't glue themselves to anything. And they had suits on, suits and ties, and they had signs. They were standing there peacefully with signs saying, "Is Joe Biden fit to serve?" Is that what it said, the signs? Is Joe Biden fit to serve? Which is kind of fun because the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, their National Press Secretary, Will Reinert, put out a series of questions this morning that House Democrats ought to answer, but no one will ask them. And the first question that Will Reinert put out is, if Joe Biden isn't fit to run for re-election, why is he mentally fit to finish out his term? I think that's a very important question. And why did you refuse to believe the Hur report? The Robert Hur report said that he's too mentally incapacitated to be put on trial because no jury would convict him because Americans are too nice. And why do you refuse to believe all the viral video footage multiple news outlets put out and, of Biden's mental lapses and his physical lapses? At Newsmax TV, I've done 6 episodes of the Biden Chronicles, and each episode of the Biden Chronicles lays out Joe Biden doing all kinds of ridiculous things and falling down and tripping and mangling lines and all kinds of crazy stuff. In fact, I mentioned it earlier, we have President Biden in Vietnam. When he was in Vietnam, he was in Hanoi. The Democrats prefer Hanoi to Saigon. It's where the commies reside. I've been to Hanoi. I've been to Saigon. I prefer Saigon. And in Saigon, they call it Saigon. Democrats call it Ho Chi Minh City. But that's because they're kind of commies. So Joe Biden in Vietnam, and he was in front of a room full of people up on a little stage with a little podium. And I think it was late at night, and Uncle Joe was getting sleepy, and in the middle of his little speech, he said, "I think I have to go sleepy time now."
And look, nobody likes having celebrated international meetings if you don't know what you want.
What?
At the meeting.
He's breathing
if
hard.
You don't have a game plan. He may have a game plan.
It's about to fall over.
He just hasn't shared it with me.
September.
But I'll tell you what, I don't know about you.
What?
But I'm going to go to bed.
Come. And that was it. Then it was, boom. And I read the story earlier. That was last year, last September 10th of 2023 in Hanoi, Vietnam. He's really putting on a show there. And I don't know about you, but I need a little sleepy time. I need some Pepto-Bismol and a pillow. I need to get out of here because just amazing. And the news media has been pretending all this time. Again, that's September 10th of last year. And the White House press corps traveled there with him. And they didn't report on it because they were engaged in a cover-up. A plane load of Washington news reporters were actively engaged in an ongoing cover-up, and they knew it. Amazing. And now James Carville. James Carville stealing my stuff here. And the New York Times says, "Mark my words, colon." I'm serious, there's a colon there. "Mark my words, colon." They love their colons. Joe Biden is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race, James Carville wrote in the New York Times, whether he is ready to admit it or not. I've been ready to admit it for him for a long time. Okay, let's go to. I was talking about this last week, and my best girl texted me to make fun of me. It was pretty funny too. Texted me in the middle of I was going off on how he is not going to be the candidate, and how I've been talking about how he's not going to be the candidate for so long now. And she's like, yeah, hey, Nostradamus, give it a rest. He hasn't stepped down yet. And yeah, knock off the victory lap, I think she said. Let's get back to Karringe, speaking of victory laps, because just amazing. She'd never seen the press. Where were we at? Number 7? Yes. And Karringe, she had never seen the press speak up like this in 3.5 years. Say, wait a minute, we think that you're not telling us the truth here. We think that and we're miffed. We're miffed. And then Karringe said, why are you missed? Why are you missed? She doesn't know the English language very well. She's a Democrat. Karringe yesterday.
I appreciate the back and forth that we all have.
No, you don't.
I try to respect you, and I hope you try to respect me. And we literally do everything that we can. My team does everything that we can to make sure we get the answers to you. That's what we do. And sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we are not in agreement. But you know what? That's democracy. That is what is important, to have that healthy back and forth.
It's on the ballot. Democracy's on the ballot. If the Democrats lose this November, that's the end of democracy. That's what they're telling us. I say it's the end of life on earth if the Republicans lose. If the Democrats win, that is the end of all life on earth. Human life, plant life, sea life, all life on earth comes to a screeching halt because you know how they are. Boy, they are just something. They're your Democrat Party. The end of democracy. It's really important to them to win, honestly. Here it is. Hey, Nostradamus, he hasn't dropped out yet. Easy on the victory lap. There it is. I just found the message. I was, but now James Carville saying there's no way he's going to make it to Election Day. He's not going to be on the ballot on Election Day. I agree with James Carville. Karringe, Parkinson's. I don't think they're enjoying this news cycle.
Can you confirm whether or not the president has seen this Parkinson's specialist?
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he
That
being
was not
treated
the
for
question.
Parkinson's? No.
Yes or no, has his physician seen a reason to reevaluate him for Parkinson's since the February physical?
No. The comprehensive report that you all have stands.
You see how she didn't answer the question, and all the reporters are so lazy or intellectually inept, journalistically inept. Said, has he seen a specialist? He is not being treated for Parkinson's. That wasn't the question, and that somehow got past the room full of reporters.
Could you state, very clearly, yes or no, was that expert here to participate in anything surrounding the care of the President of the United States?
So let me just say a couple of things. We have had a comprehensive, and I just want to take another step back, comprehensive
One more.
Physical
Two-step.
examination. The president has had that. We've given a comprehensive report.
Yeah, that's, again, non-responsive, and they all just sit there and they take it. Isn't that amazing? They are truly something, those people. Now, let's go to number 13. Actually, there's one more I wanted to get to. That's the big boy, right? Because yesterday they had Cobble Kirby come out and start the briefing because the world is at war since Joe Biden took over, and we're funding all of it on both sides because the military-industrial complex loves Joe Biden, stumbling buffoon though he may be. And there was this kind of hilarious moment when Cobble Kirby came out, and then Karringe came out after Cobble Kirby. But they announced that Joe Biden will be holding a press conference this Thursday, the day after tomorrow. We'll see if that actually happens. It may be, as I said yesterday, where he announces that he's passing the torch, that he's stepping aside. These are the terms that have been agreed upon, that he will step aside They haven't announced he's going to, but that's the terminology that's in use. And that he will pass the torch. Great stuff. But both of them talked about the press conference that is allegedly scheduled for the day after tomorrow in terms of a well-known fast food restaurant.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all. We're calling it.
It's a big boy press conference, which is quality food at a fair price, right? And that's you got Bob Zibbo holding up a tray with the plaid, apron on and all that stuff. It's Bob's Big Boy. Our grandfather used to take us to Bob's Big Boy when we were little kids in Milwaukee. Always loved going to Bob's Big Boy. And I think Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, had a whole scene built around Big Boy. So there's having the Big Boy press conference like he's a mentally impaired child. We're going to have the Big Boy press conference, right? And they claim this is because a Bloomberg reporter last week, is the president ever going to have a Big Boy press conference where he actually stands there by himself and takes questions? And then Karringe came out. I don't know if she missed the Cobble Kirby moment or if she just wanted to double down, circle back.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a Big Boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
Big Boy, according to it's going to be a Big Boy, according to Justin and they're going to have Bob's Big Boy. I guess it'll be Joe's Big Boy press conference in this case. The Big Boy press conference scheduled for day after tomorrow. That may be the end of his presidency, but they're going to give him lots of Prevagen. He's going to end up doing Prevagen ads after he leaves the presidency, don't you think? They can see if they can make him sound cogent for at least a few minutes. Amazing stuff. Congressman Benny Thompson is an African-American member of Congress. I know that because he's a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I think he was invited to join the Congressional White Caucus, but he didn't want to. There is no Congressional White Caucus. Sorry, just a Congressional Black Caucus, Congressional Hispanic Caucus. The Democrats love racism. They're racists. But here's Benny Thompson. He was walking yesterday on Capitol Hill, and a reporter, I think Fox News, asked him, hey, what about this Joe Biden? He should really leave, shouldn't he?
Sir, do you think he can do this for 4 more years after what you saw in the debate?
Yes.
Yes.
Why is it, do you think, the CBC has become such a firewall for us?
Because we're the most loyal group of Democrats in Washington.
CBC.
Bar none.
Bar none. The Congressional Black Caucus, the most loyal group of Democrats in Washington, bar none. Which is natural, given the fact that Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, was a Democrat, and Nathan Bedford Forrest, a Democrat, created the KKK, and every Jim Crow law was a Democrat-passed law. And Governor Orville Faubus, standing in the schoolhouse door at Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957, was a Democrat. And Governor George Wallace was a Democrat. And in fact, he stood in the schoolhouse door in Alabama. And then, of course, the assassination and the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. was a George Wallace campaign volunteer, just like the guy that shot Congressman Steve Scalise was a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. I'm beginning to think the Democrat Party might have a violent streak. They shot and killed the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. And, Abraham Lincoln had a brilliant idea, the unity ticket. He chose a Democrat, Andrew Johnson, to be his running mate as vice president. And, when Abraham Lincoln was shot in the head and killed by a Democrat, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat became the president. And Abraham Lincoln was the first ever Republican president. This is the actual history of the Democrat Party. Haktui. That's a different thing altogether. We'll just leave that out for now. The financial world has changed a lot, hasn't it? And it's time to consider how we're all going to adapt. We just saw a seismic shift happen in the global financial world when Saudi Arabia declared that it may exit the petrodollar system. For 75 years now, the petrodollar agreement has helped to maintain the U.S. dollar and our status as the world's reserve currency. But that era may now be coming to an end because Saudi Arabia has changed their mind and Joe Biden hasn't done anything about it. This change could have far-reaching effects for our economy and for everybody's retirement, to name just one thing. In times of major economic transition, a lot of investors look to diversify with what we call tangible assets. Gold, the ultimate in tangible assets. Its history as a safe harbor throughout all of human history may become the go-to option for investors looking for growth potential and stability. That's why I want to recommend calling it Vantage Gold. I was just on the phone with him the other day for a long time. It was great. All you have to do to get started is text my first name, Chris, to 1-888-255-0668. You're going to get a 100% free 2024 gold and silver kit. This guide is wonderful. Plus, mention this ad that you heard this on my show. You may qualify for a $1,300 bonus. So start by texting Chris, C-H-R-I-S, to 1-888-255-0668. And take action now. Get started. Get the ball rolling. Message and data rates may apply. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Yeah, boy, if you're Joe Biden, things have gotten weird. Of course, they got weird, like 30 years ago, but they're getting extra weird now.
Coma? Why, I go in and out of comas all the... French toast, please.
Yeah, I love the men in black protesters on Capitol Hill as Joe Biden fit for office. Their signs read. They look like squared away Americans. And whatever happened to the Herr report that said that he was not capable of standing trial, but he's fine to be president, the Democrats say. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Rachel, calling from Alexandria, Virginia. Rachel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I couldn't be better. Having a riot?
Good. I'm a long-term listener. Thanks for your show. Thanks for speaking the truth, taking our calls. All this talk about Joe Biden's health and whether he can lead our country reminds me of the Sunday morning I woke up to the news of Hillary, who fell to the curb and blew out her little sandal in New York, and they had to block the crowd.
All right.
So we couldn't see her get into they called it the Scooby-Doo van.
Yeah.
Remember the black van that they drove her around in with a bed in the back?
Yeah. You know what, Rachel, hang in there for me for a minute, if you could, please. Yeah, the mobile medical unit. All right, and with my apologies, because I mismanaged the clock again. I so often do that. Let's go back to Rachel in Alexandria. Rachel, I apologize. You were mid-thought. Talking about Hillary Clinton collapsing, and it was the September 11th event in New York City, and they had that black van she was traveling in, like it was a medical, I think it was an ambulance disguised as Michael Jackson's private limo or something, and she collapsed like a bag of potatoes. In fact, we made videos after that where I rolled a 10-pound bag of potatoes down staircases with a Hillary wig on it, and we had fun with that.
Yes. How could I forget? I guess in your 60s, sometimes your memory does get a little weak. However, it was. I just watched the clip to refresh my memory. September 11th, 2016. Beautiful day, breezy day in New York. No one else fainted. She fainted and, like I said, blew out her shoe, and they dragged her into the back of the Scooby van. And then she came out of her daughter's, multi-million-dollar penthouse somewhere in New York City, looking like they had replaced her head. Remember that, Chris?
I do.
And she's like, I feel fine. I feel great. So that was the morning I knew that President Trump was going to be our next president. and she has showed signs of issues with her brain as well since then. I'd like to say one more thing. President Trump just needs to drill down a little bit on Kamala's background. She wasn't fair to our Black community on the West Coast. She even fought the state to keep young Black men in prison for nonviolent marijuana charges. She also blew through her campaign money on, as by the way, I just drove by the St. Regis. All the NATO people are staying there. It must be nice to have all that money, by the way. But as you recall, that was her hotel of choice throughout the country when she was on her brief campaign trail when her staff was arguing and complaining and reporting sexual harassment charges against some of her top team members. And she blew through the money so fast that, and her, her popularity rating was 1.5%. So, but I believe that they've been planning this all along, and people have been discussing this for months, even years.
Yeah.
And one more thing, I have a close family member that does suffer from dementia, and it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And just Mr. Biden's physical movements when he stops suddenly and he has his hands
Right.
in a fist or his thumbs out.
Yeah.
It's exactly what my family member does, and I've seen this for over a year with Mr. Biden, and so he owes it to the American people, to his own voters. He needs to step aside, and Trump needs to start focusing on Kamala. But I appreciate you listening, and I don't want to hold up anybody else's call, but thank you very much.
That is great. That's wonderful, Rachel. I'm glad you got through, and thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate it, and I apologize for mismanaging the clock and going up to the commercial break there. But God bless. Have a great American Day.
God bless. God bless America. Thank you, Chris. Good job.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, and God save us all. Yeah, right. And all the NATO people staying down at the St. Regis, they nice to have that kind of money. It's our money, of course, because we fund 2/3 of NATO. President Trump corrected that to some degree or another, but our NATO allies, our friends who we've liberated from the Germans over and over again and saved from the Soviets on an ongoing basis for generations, you're welcome. They're still living off the fat of the land. The land is in the United States of America, though. Remarkable stuff. Now, I mentioned earlier that, all of the medical issues with Joseph Robinette Biden. And this morning on my friend Larry O'Connor's show on the great WMAL, my mothership radio station in Washington, D.C., Larry O'Connor's show, O'Connor and Company in the morning, had on Dr. Ronnie Jackson. Dr. Ronnie Jackson was the White House physician during many of the Bush years, then all of the Obama years, and all of the Trump years, and then he ran for Congress in Texas. Now he is a Republican member of the House of Representatives, and he is a medical doctor and former White House doctor, and he listened to all that Karringe Jean-Pierre stuff yesterday, and it's segment number 27, I believe. And Ronnie Jackson this morning. I apologize. This part was on the. Let's skip over that one and go to 28. Ronnie Jackson on the Larry O'Connor show in Washington, D.C., WMAL this morning.
He was waved in to the residence clinic, and that is a clinic that's directly below the president's bedroom. And he was waved in by Dr. O'Connor for an appointment with Dr. O'Connor in the residence clinic. Dr. O'Connor, of course, is the appointed physician of the president. The residence clinic is a separate clinic that's on the ground floor of the White House, like I said, right below the president's bedroom, and it's for seeing members of the first family and the president. That's what it's for.
Now, this is the former White House doctor, and when Karringe was saying, he's over in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building visiting with thousands of military personnel who are all medical professionals at the White House or something like that. And that's Dr. Kennard, of course, and keeping in mind that a canard is a false or unfounded report or story, a fabricated report. And that's what the White House is putting out again. They should call it the Kennard Report. Just like my friend Tim said, and somebody else tweeted at us too, that instead of the big boy press conference, it should be called the big guy press conference, since Joe Biden is the big guy in all of the emails and the Hunter Biden laptop that they lied to us about for years, that the intelligence community lied to us about, on and on. All right, so Dr. Ronnie Jackson on the Larry O'Connor Show talking about Dr. Kennard coming into the White House. They say now at least 8 times. I think yesterday the report was at least 10 times. But they lie about everything. And in a couple of weeks, the numbers will be different. It won't be Dr. Kennard. It will be Dr. Strangelove or Dr. Duck or something. You know, Kennard in French is duck. But in English, it's a false or unfounded report or story, a fabricated report, a groundless rumor or belief. And Dr. Ronnie Jackson knows a thing or two about medical treatment at the White House.
They could do screening exams there, and obviously the neurologist could see him in the privacy of that clinic and do like a basic neurological exam. That's probably where it would start. He would ultimately have to go over to Walter Reed, which he may have done during his physical. We just don't know. He would, because they're very cryptic about, what is neurologic. They said he had a thorough neurologic exam, but they don't really detail what that was.
Yeah, and and again, the doctor is a renowned specialist who has written. Apparently, he wrote a book, a significant paper, and then a book on Parkinson's disease. Dr. Kennard, and it's not just a roasted duck breast anymore. And Dr. Ronnie Jackson, now Congressman Ronnie Jackson, saying that the visitor logs show that he was not holding open clinics, like a free clinic in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, which is inside the White House fence line, the compound, the greater compound, and that he was invited into the White House, and where there is a private facility in the White House proper that is just directly below the president's bedroom, and that is where the president of the United States would be seen by medical doctors from Walter Reed and beyond. So Dr. Ronnie Jackson is demonstrating that, once again, their story doesn't hold up.
Joe Biden is way past the point of getting a cognitive screening test, which is what President Trump got, right? He got the MOCA, which is a screening test looking for indicators of cognitive impairment, which is typically done as part of an annual physical exam. President Biden is way past that. He needs a formal cognitive workup. He doesn't need a screening exam anymore. He needs a workup for his cognitive issues. And I kind of feel like that's probably already happened and we don't know about it. I feel like he's probably being treated medically.
Yeah. Now, he knows whereof he speaks, I've got to say. So just remarkable times we're in, and finding the truth is more difficult than ever before with the omnipresent media, which is so full of hooey. And remember and it's good to be a Democrat because they just can't wait to give you a tongue bath. They get out of bed to lie for you every morning. And they've been doing it for years and years, from Russian collusion and President Trump to Hillary Clinton's opposition research allegedly being a dossier, and there are Russians involved in that if you're looking for Russian collusion, and Hillary Clinton's destruction of 33,000 emails, including lots of classified emails, and no raids of her home, no staged photos by the FBI. The FBI staging those photos, and the FBI bringing the classified cover sheets with them to stage the photos more dramatically. People should be fired and perhaps even charged with crimes for what they did there. But never mind that. The lies are so big, and Joe Biden is fine. It's fine. The Robert Hur report, which said that, he's an old man an elderly man with a poor memory. Remember that? And that no jury would convict him, so they couldn't possibly charge him with crimes. It's good to be a Democrat. And they attack Robert Hur as a Republican. Well, if he is, he's much more compassionate because he should have charged than any Democrat ever, because he should have charged Joe Biden with crimes and had him dragged away in handcuffs in an orange jumpsuit, thrown into a jail cell next to, Steve Bannon or someone. Maybe solitary confinement without representation down at the D.C. jail like he prayed outside of the Capitol on January 6th. But never mind that. Speaking of liars and all the lies that they tell, I was sharing with you the updates out of Chicago a while back, and the Chicago mayor, he's quite a piece of work, and I want to get to a crime report out of Washington this morning, too. ABC News Chicago with the headline last night, Chicago shootings, they love their colons. At least 109 shot, 19 fatally in citywide holiday weekend. That's pretty amazing, 19. Again, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago in 1929. They made movies about it and wrote books, and it's famous. 7 people were killed, and they were all gangsters. And the Irish gangsters, North Side, Bugs Moran's boys, in a garage on the North Side. And that became lore for generations. Nearly a century ago that happened. Now 19 shot and killed over the weekend in Chicago. I don't think CNN or ABC or NBC or CBS even mentioned it. 109 shot. It's more dangerous than Fallujah. Just extraordinary stuff. Now, the mayor of Chicago is a Democrat, a radical, an extremist, not bright at all. And his name is Let's Go Brandon Johnson. And Let's Go Brandon was holding a press conference yesterday about the massive number of shootings and murders. There were at least 4 mass shootings. A mass shooting is a shooting in which at least 4 people are shot. They don't have to be killed. It's a mass shooting if 4 people are shot. They happen all the time. Always, almost always by Democrats in Democrat neighborhoods at backyard barbecues and things like that. I believe there were 4 mass shootings over the weekend in Chicago based on that description. The mayor of Chicago yesterday at a press conference knows who is to blame for all the violence in Chicago.
Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time.
Your city.
We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes.
60 years ago.
And people mocked President Johnson.
What?
And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
What?
I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, and I need everybody to step up.
Richard Nixon has been dead for years, and LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who used the N-word with alacrity and frequency, the Democrat who got us into Vietnam up to our eyeballs, and just the root causes, Richard Nixon. You need a brain. We need to send Dr. Kennard, I think, to Chicago to visit with Let's Go Brandon Johnson. He's going to need a full workup on the brain too. And then this morning there was a news report. It was a news report from the local news, Channel 7. A reporter named Adriana Hopkins, seems very nice, reporting on a mass shooting in Washington, D.C. last night. And the police put out an all-points bulletin with a description of the gunman who shot 2 men and 2 women in a mass shooting. That's 4 people. And listen to in a Democrat-run city, listen to the Democrat police chief, listen to the description we got of the gunman.
The suspect's description is vague. Police say this is a man with a white shirt, dark pants, and white shoes. If you have any information, give police a call.
I'm sorry, a man? Why did you even say it's a man? It should just be a person in a white shirt, white shoes. What kind of pants? That was as good a description as you're going to get. So if you're in Washington, Bolo, be on the lookout for a man in a white shirt with white shoes. Might be the person that shot 4 people last night in Washington, D.C. in a mass shooting.
Man with a white shirt, dark pants, and white shoes. If you have any information, give police a call.
Yes. I love the new poll showing that Hillary to the rescue. And James Carville saying that Joe Biden is not going to make it to Election Day as the Democratic nominee. He said Joe Biden is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race, whether he is ready to admit it or not. James Carville following my lead. He knows, I know, we all know. The American people know. And Joe Biden is out. Also, there is a fun story that the Washington Post has gotten so many letters from their readers, dwindling in number though they may be. Washington Post readers urge Jill Biden to tell Joe Biden to withdraw from the race. One reader said that President Biden is not a, quote, toddler to pacify, end quote. So when the Washington Post has a basket full of letters from their readers and they're forced to publish them in the hard copy of the paper and online, and other news organizations are noticing that Washington Post readers sent letters to First Lady Jill Biden in an attempt to persuade her to prevail upon her husband, knowing that she's the real power behind the throne because she likes all the trappings, and tell him to withdraw from the race. James Carville advising Barack Obama and Bill Clinton to get together with the 23 Democrat governors in the United States of America and host some kind of phony town halls in which they would identify the replacement for Joe Biden. And the poll showing that Hillary Clinton does better against Donald Trump than Kamala Harris would, and does better against Donald Trump than Joe Biden would. That's according to all the polls and all that good stuff. Just wonderful, wonderful things. So much stuff to get to still that I have not yet gotten to, but I also love the fact that Congresswoman Republican Claudia Tenney calls for the Department of Justice to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop, the signers, the 51 corrupt liars that claim to be intelligence officials, including penitentiary face Brennan, John Brennan, and great New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney announced Monday she was sending a letter to the Justice Department requesting an investigation into the 51 signers of the letter that labeled reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop as Russian information operation. That was a giant lie. They tampered with our presidential election. They should be held accountable, dagnabbit.